Well, hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. This is Monday Fire episode something or another. We are in 2020, folks. I can only do so many things, and remembering what number we're on is not one of them. But if you listened to the Monday Fire last week, I know I talked about weird things, about this time in the world, such as how I was cutting my own hair and spiraling, quite frankly, many months ago. And so if you didn't listen to that, I want you to go listen to that. And my heart right now is to really just encourage those of you who are listening to just dealing on a day-to-day basis, like with all the weirdness in the world and how you can most serve the Lord right now, serve your calling, how you can most serve your family, how you can most take care of yourself. Little things that I have found are helping me because I kind of had to dig out of a pit. I'm not going to lie. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is just the fact that, the enemy loves to come in. Well, his job is number one, just to steal, kill, and destroy. That's biblical. Even if we share a different faith, I think most people will agree there's evil in the world, right? And so the enemy's plan is always to steal, kill, and destroy. And as if 2020 wasn't enough of a dumpster fire right now with what is even happening with two, tropical storms headed towards our country. Like, what is that 2020, right? And so as if the politics wasn't enough and the virus is not enough and some of the racial tensions is not enough, like as if all of that is not enough, the enemy is also really coming in right now and just separating relationships. See, first, we were called to physically separate because of coronavirus, right? The whole sheltering at home, the shutting down of churches, all of the things. It was a physical separation. But what I'm concerned about is I'm concerned that we may be giving a foothold to the enemy to not only physically separate, but to emotionally separate. And I wanted to talk about that today, okay? So the difference between emotional separation and physical separation. And just kind of what we can do, some things that we can do to make sure that we're on guard against the plans of the enemy in our life. So here's a few thoughts that I have around the emotional separation that I'm seeing in addition to the physical separation, okay? So emotional separation, number one, we've had so much togetherness, a lot of us, in terms of just in our households in the last, how many months has it been? We are in the 8th month and it was started in March. So I can do math, 5 months. We'll just say 6 just for goodness here. So in the last 6 months, some of us have had so much togetherness with our children, with our spouse, if you have anybody else that lives with you. And listen, the truth is that a full-time working person outside of the home spends a lot of times more hours with outside of the home than they do actually inside of the home. That's just where we're at in the world. But since this pandemic started, you're together a lot more in your house, right? And for some people, work was at times, sometimes an escape from marriage, from kids, from really the togetherness, really going deeper on, relationship and things like that. And right now there's just so much togetherness that almost you cannot avoid some of the underlying issues in some of your relationships at home. Also, we are all processing where the world currently is with like zero experience to follow back on. Nobody has ever been through a pandemic. So what we're doing is we're all new to this. We're all learning as we go. A lot of times when we experience different hardships or crises in life, we have people that can kind of mentor us through it, right? Or we can look back when this happened the last time and where things went wrong and learn from it. And right now, since we've never been here before, we don't know how to stay healthy, like mentally in the middle of a time when the world is as crazy as it is right now. I'm also sensing that there's just some anger almost brewing right below the surface in a lot of people. And listen, friends, I'm going to tell you, I've had to check myself before I wreck myself more than once recently, because I'll get on Facebook or Instagram and I'll see nonsense and I want to just call it out and I want to just tell people why they are wrong and I want to just give my opinion. And then I'm like, all right, stop. I mean, I remember, different things that the Lord has shown me in my last couple of years of like, I don't have to show up for every fight I'm invited to. I don't have to give my opinion on everything on the internet. There are some things that silence is better than addressing. There's other things that the Lord's wanting me to have conversations about, but face to face and not on the internet. But that there's this under brewing of anger almost. I know for myself, I was interviewing Dr. Darius Daniels today. You guys are going to hear that podcast really soon. And it was so powerful and so rich. But I was telling him that I felt like I was back at confession. For those of you who don't know, I talked about it in my book, but I was raised Catholic. So grew up going to confession all of my life until I left the Catholic Church as a teenager. But I was telling him, I'm like, I feel like I'm just confessing my sins here. But I told him, I'm feeling really rebellious at times. And I got to keep checking that, because every time I have to put on a mask when I walk into a store, I get so angry on the inside. And, there is such a thing as righteous anger, but there's also such a thing as getting angry over the wrong things. And feeling rebellious is never a Christ-like quality. And it's not just me. There's so many of you who I know, like the politics on your feed is making your head just want to explode. You're in complete disagreement with how the media is handling different things. You're in disagreement with how the government is handling things, with how local governing bodies are handling things. And the main issue with this whole anger brewing right below the surface thing is that we feel very out of control, very out of control. And so all of those things are causing us, number one, not to be our best self. And the other thing is that, for extroverts who love people, like they haven't been able to be with all their people lately. And for us introverts, like we can't get alone. We haven't been able to be alone in months and months and months. And the world is very people-y. And so all of those things, when you look at them together, are one of the reasons I see us a lot of times almost like there's some unraveling emotionally happening. And so here's what I wanted to do to just encourage you this week. If you're finding like in your house, you're arguing, you're a little on edge, you're ready for the kids to, go outside, go back to school, go somewhere. Like, I just want you to know that I get it. Okay. So I wanted to give you some tips though, that are going to help you this week. Number one, give the people in your house the benefit of the doubt. Like, honestly, Jason and I went to a marriage class once because we've done marriage counseling and marriage classes many times in our 23 years of marriage. And it's the best investment you will ever make into your marriage future. But we attended one class, and I can't tell you now, like I think it might've been men are from Mars and women are from Venus, but don't quote me on that, but it's come from that book. But it was basically just trying to remember that your spouse is a well-meaning person. So a lot of times Jason's acting a fool, and I got to remember he is a well-meaning man. And there's a lot of times when I'm acting a fool and I'm hoping that he remembers I am a well-meaning woman. But we're finding ourselves experiencing emotions that we haven't really had to deal with a lot of times. And for some of us, it's bubbling up in funny ways, right? So remembering that the people you live with, they're all trying to do the best they can, hopefully, and that they're well-meaning individuals is super helpful. Jason and I have had to like really figure out how to give each other space, number two. And in that space, what do we each need to do with the space to make sure we are as healthy mentally as possible? So for Jason, he's getting up and he's biking alone every day. Number one, I can't keep up with him. I mean, the guy's biking at almost 20 miles an hour on average. And my short little Oompa Loompa legs, they just can't keep up. If you too have short Oompa Loompa legs, please let me know on Instagram, will you? But anywho, so he's going out biking. He's doing a lot of golfing by himself. Even though he's an extrovert, he's needing that time to really be out of the house, to really process. Myself, I'm needing a lot of walking time alone. I'm needing more reading time alone. This is how both of us were kind of trying to recharge in different ways. But saying right now what you need and asking for what you need is really super key for keeping yourself emotionally healthy, and then healthy together as a couple. Seeing other people in real life. I'm going to go out on a limb here, friends, and I'm sure somebody's going to send me some hate mail. Listen, if you disagree with me, no need to let me know. No need to send me a nasty DM or any of the things. But for the first part of the pandemic, when we were called to shelter at home and everybody not leave and all the things, we did exactly what we were told. We really did. We did exactly what we were told. Well, now so many of those restrictions have been lifted, and there are still people who are sheltering at home. They are refusing to venture out, and that's fine. There's a lot of different reasons people don't want to go out. Perhaps they have elderly people with them. There's a lot of reasons, right? But they're also like have not seen other people since March. I literally am in a Facebook group with a woman who has not left her home other than a few walks around the block, she said, since March. And my question to her is why? Why? Because I'm going to give you a newsflash here, and I'm not trying to get political or pretend like I'm a doctor, but friends, this is not going away, at least not in the immediate future. And what I wanted to say to her, but I'm not in a place in her life where I can speak into her. I don't know her like that. What I wanted to say is have a friend over for lunch. Sit outside on the deck. Sit 12 feet apart if you have to with a megaphone. But just looking into the eyes of another human being would do your heart good right now. If you have decided to not see anybody and just to be completely alone, it's no wonder that you're lonely, my friend. How can you do it in a safe way? How can you do it in a responsible way, but you still get that human connection? See, God designed us for human connection. We were not designed to sit at home alone for 6 months. We were not. This is not healthy. It is not. I don't care. This is not us arguing about the virus. I'm trying to get you to see that there are so many other things happening in the world as a result of the mental capacity of people because of the virus. I had somebody tell me the other day, and I haven't fact checked it, so that locally where we live, that there were 3 teenage suicides just last week. And I'm like, gosh, it's a tough time right now. We were designed to be in relationship with people, to actually see people face to face, not to be all sent to our opposite corners and have zero relationship. I don't care what you say. It's not the same when you see people on a FaceTime. It's not. It's just not. And so figure out a way that you can see people. I told you guys recently, we have even traveled in the last month or so because why? Well, because I have this deep, deep need to travel on occasion. And so Jason and I took the kids and some other people that we have sheltered in place with for many months now. And we went to a remote location where we didn't have to be around anybody and we didn't have to go anywhere. And we were able to sit on a beach and drink a cocktail with an umbrella in it to the glory of God and try to, make some sense out of the current world that we are living in. And that did more for my soul than anything else probably in the last 6 months. Listen, people are desperate to be seen and heard right now. They are desperate to be seen and heard right now. I want you to perhaps, if you are in a deep, dark place, I want you to just kind of scan your world. Where do you live physically? The people that you know, maybe some people from your church, people you've been in relationship with. Who do you know that's in a worse place than you? I want you to think this week of how could you be a blessing to them? Is there a neighbor, an elderly neighbor you could go get groceries for? Is there somebody that you could just have sit in your backyard and you can have some physical distance between you or whatever comfort level you have, but just have a real life human conversation? I am so more concerned right now, friends, with the emotional and mental ramifications of this virus, even than the physical ones. And I am not downplaying the deaths. Please know that. I don't want to argue with you about that. Okay, I'm not saying the virus isn't real, and I'm not saying that the deaths are not a horrible thing. But what I'm saying is depression is way up. Suicide is way up. Child abuse is up. Addiction is up. People getting on sleeping pills is up. Depression medication, the filling of prescriptions is up. Okay, so we have got to make sure that as we physically distance, that we are not emotionally distancing. Because I love this. My Pastor Philip O'Reilly, he had a long time ago, he did a sermon where he was talking about how as believers and the body of Christ, like we've got to stay like in a hot fire. Like when you think about a bunch of coals, that make a fire, and think about how if you take one coal out and you put it to the side, how quickly that coal loses its fire. Now I want you to think about something different. I was thinking about this the other day. Think about that pile of coals that maybe you take, out to the state park and you grill something on them or whatever. If they are all completely separate and not touching each other, that thing goes out like that. It goes out like that, friends. We were meant to be in community and in communication and all the things. So right now, I want you to know that you have the option of taking the bait of Satan. The Bible talks about not even giving the devil a foothold. Okay. So what does that look like? Well, that looks like engaging in arguments on social media that you don't need to, that you're not going to win anyway. Engaging in conversations with family members that you know are going to go sideways. Like, stop it. You know them. You know them. You know where they stand. They know where you stand. Neither one of you are going to change the other one's mind. Some of you are mentally struggling because you're fighting about things that do not matter. Others of you are so frustrated with the world that you're perhaps taking it out on the people closest to you and fighting the wrong battle. So I encourage you, as you go into your work week this week, or maybe your kids are going back to school, praise Jesus, or just whatever you've got this week ahead of you. I want you to remember that God is still on the throne. He is not up there wringing his hands, wondering what on earth is going to happen now that we have a pandemic. That is not what's happening. So he is still fully on the throne, fully in control. I want you to look at all the people that are closest to you and remember they are well-meaning individuals, and to give them the sort of grace that you hope that you get. I want you to work on actually saying the things that you need this week. What do you need to feel better mentally? Do you need to go check yourself into a hotel for 24 hours and just get your head straight, just take a bath and read a book? Tell somebody that. Tell somebody that. Because when you are filling your own cup in that way and making sure that you're healthy that way, you can show up for everybody else in your world in such a more powerful, powerful way. So I love you, my friends. I hope that was a blessing to somebody this week. I literally broke my own rule, and this podcast has been 6 minutes longer than it should have been. But it felt like it was a necessary conversation to have. And if this was a blessing to you, please let me know on Instagram. Go send me a DM, post about this week's podcast, show a picture of it and link to it. And I will see you over there in my DMs. Bless you, my friends. Bye-bye.